Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.
Welcome to LDS Unmarried Life, a podcast for single members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who find themselves single because they're either divorced, widowed, or not yet married, and there's no affiliation with the church. Please find this podcast at AnnetteTalks.com. Also, subscribing would be great, and commenting, because I'm trying to make this into a community podcast with a lot of interaction. And so today I am in Utah, and I am visiting with my friend Julie, and this is actually the first time we've met. Julie, you want to say hi?
Hi.
You can share your last name or not share your last name, totally up to you.
Julie Johnson.
All right. We met on Facebook, and we've been in the same Facebook group for a while, and which one are we in? 35? Or no, Mix and Mingle?
Mix and Mingle.
LDS is divorce survivors, Mix
Yeah.
and Mingle, something like that. And I think sometimes I'll see a kindred spirit in there, and you're kind of like that for me.
Yes.
And
we get one another.
yes, I think so. I think sometimes you just look at each other's posts,
Yeah.
and you think, I can relate to that person.
Yeah.
And so I decided, I recently saw some of your posts where you were very open that you were going through a breakup.
Uh-huh.
And it took me back in time, about 2.5 years ago, to my first post-divorce breakup. Because I've been divorced for about 3.5 years, and for you it's been...
8 months.
Yes. And it's funny because my first, and actually only at this point, post-divorce breakup was at about that same point away from my divorce. It's okay. If you hear clicking sounds in the background, it's the dog. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it, Julie. I record in interesting places, so sometimes you get interesting background noises. But anyway, I was divorced in July of 2014, and I met the guy I dated in May of 2015. So maybe 10 months.
About 10 months.
Similar.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's a period right after you get divorced. I call it having newly divorced syndrome, or NDS. And for me, I was dating up a storm. Like, I was out dating everybody all over the place. Like, it's kind of like you have something to prove. Like, okay, my marriage didn't work out, but I'm still attractive. I'm still worthwhile. Men still like me, right? Did you go through that at all before?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, right after I got divorced, I was on the dating sites. Well, maybe I started like 2 months. I'm going to be honest. I started on the dating sites about 2 months before the divorce happened. But I didn't engage.
Mm-hmm. Just checking out the
just
shopping.
checking
window
out.
shopping.
I was window shopping, but there was no engagement at all. And so as soon as it started to be final, or when it was officially final, is when I started to engage.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was doing a little window shopping before as well. I know I was chatting on Facebook with guys, but it was not romantic, and it wasn't ever leading to a date. I waited until my divorce was final before I went on a first date.
There's a lot of guys out there who are not married. I mean, who are still married on those dating sites.
Yeah, I found that out. I remember this one time.
I mean, I'm sure it's both ways. But
I'm sure too.
They're engaging. I just saw one last night. Officially, what is today, November 23rd? And someone said, I'm officially divorced of November 13th, 2018. I'm like, oh my heavens. I am so not going to.
Yeah.
No, too soon.
And people can't see it, but because we're doing this post-divorce topic, we have some junk food around us on the table. We took some pictures beforehand, but
yeah, pumpkin pie and orange rolls and pretzels and whipped cream. You can't have a party without whipped cream.
Yeah, Cheetos, and the pretzels are dark chocolate covered, which is one of my weaknesses. And I always tell, this is a little side detour, but when I first started engaging with the guy, like on Facebook or wherever, I dropped the fact that I like dark chocolate, and then I wait and see.
Ooh, good one.
If anyone ever actually brings any to me. And I have to say, I went out with a guy a few weeks ago for lunch, and he brought dark chocolate. And I was like, this guy just like scored 10 points or however, if I was keeping a scorecard. But ironically enough, the guy that dumped me in 2014, I remember I made dinner for him one night, and he texted me before and said, "Can I bring anything?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm making dinner, but if you want, you can bring me some dark chocolate." And he didn't. He didn't bring me anything.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
I made a comment about I wanted a red rose,
Mm-hmm.
and I never got a red rose.
Isn't that
So I bought myself red roses.
That's the most ridiculous thing. Guys, that's a softball for you. You don't have to read minds, and I mean, maybe we're just hinting, but if a lady hints that she would like something,
it means yes.
It means she wants it, right? She shouldn't have to like send you a letter in the mail. Dear John, well, that would be a bad start. Dear Jack, right? Just letting you know, I like dark chocolate and red roses.
And you can bring that to me on the next date.
Yeah.
I would like to have that. Maybe we need to be more specific. Specific. This night, this time.
Bring this.
Bring this. Maybe it's that.
I don't know, it's just...
I'll take ownership. I did not say specifically what day I wanted that red rose.
Really? I never said when to bring me the dark chocolate. Maybe. I don't know.
Although you were having dinner, so you applied.
Yeah, I mean, to that.
He did.
Yes, he said, what can I bring? And that implied that night.
That night, not like next month or next year. It was on that day.
Maybe guys don't know how to date. I don't know. This needs. I need to do.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, we're gonna do a round table sometime. I was hoping to do one here in Utah, but
I have a saying on that is what I'm noticing between men and women is we want different things. So women want to feel safe and secure,
yes.
And men want the woman. How does this woman make me feel about me?
Interesting.
So that's what I've noticed in my dating experience, and there's a lot of men. And don't get me wrong, I've dated really amazing men. I screen them very well. So if you actually get a date with me, I've really gone through a lot of again, screening process.
Right.
You don't have to like be ninja warrior and do all that good stuff, but I just noticed that we have different agendas. And so I think that's the barrier here that we got to kind of overcome, is this barrier between what a man wants and what a woman wants, and how do you come together to get both needs met.
So men want to feel good about themselves?
They want to have this woman feel, how does this woman make me feel about me?
Oh.
And, am I going to get, do I look good with her? Do I feel good around her?
So men, here's a hint. If you bring the dark chocolate or the red rose, she's going to show appreciation, and then you're going to feel good about yourself. Both
and then
needs
we're
met.
going to feel safe, and we're going to feel safe, and because all we do is we want to feel safe emotionally, physically, sexually, spiritually, and if we don't feel like that trust on those, or and it really is. I never got that red rose, and I thought that was when I flat out said, I would like to have a red rose.
Yeah. And it's huge, isn't it?
But again, it goes back to, it could be several reasons of why I didn't get that red rose. But I feel like there's such a different, when I watch, I'm also watch a lot of body language, and I go to these singles events really to look at the body language, and it's fascinating to see, like, oh, I just want her to like lift her head up a little higher, or I want the man to, again, the man's job overall is to make any woman feel safe. Mm-hmm. And if they don't pick up on those cues, they're gonna lose the woman. Yeah. And the woman's gonna lose the cues with the man if she doesn't. A man wants to feel like a hero. Yeah. And if he doesn't feel like a hero, he's not gonna be too interested for too long.
Interesting. Oh, that's good to know. Well, you're a dating coach, aren't you?
I am a dating coach.
Okay. So, and they can reach you on Facebook if they need to?
They can reach me on Facebook, and then they can, at this point I'm on Facebook just because the website's on its way.
Oh, okay. I hear that. Mine's there, but it needs a little work.
But I am on Facebook, so people can find me.
I did not realize what a thing dating coaching was until just recently, and it seems like everyone's got one. So I guess I should get myself.
I even have one. I have a dating coach.
Well, if you're like me, you're much better at giving advice than receiving or taking your own advice. Because I give great advice to people all the time, and then I look at my own dating and I'm like, what am I doing?
Oh, I have to have advice. Before I go on, again, I have a screening process, and then even they go through, once when I kind of like them, they'll have to go through my dating coach. So I'll send pictures.
Wow, interesting.
So I'll send pictures.
Oh, that's right. You said your dating coach looks at faces and can tell you what to look for.
Yep, Alex Palos is his name, Alexander Palos, and he does facial profiling. And so he'll tell me exactly what's going on, red flags and all. And then I have my clients see him and work with him, as well as I'm kind of fixing up, because what he tells you, you're like, what? And you kind of feel like you got, in a way, punched in the stomach just a little bit, because you're like, I'm so good with reading people, and he knows, like, it's like he's a fly on the wall with these guys. And so when I start dating them, I start to see exactly, word for word, even what Alex will say that they will say and do.
Wow. You know what? It's funny because you told me that last night, and I've been thinking about it ever since then. And, my first reaction is, that's such BS. There's no way someone can tell something by looking at a face, right? Mm-hmm. But then this morning, I jumped on to Mutual. In Denver, when I go on Mutual, I'm lucky to have one or two pop up. And then I get here, and there's I probably went through 100 faces this morning.
And you probably went through my old boyfriend, Annette.
Could be. I did see a name that you had mentioned to me, and I'm like, I wonder if this is the same name.
Is he got white hair?
This one I don't think so, but I'll have to look.
All right, we'll have to go back and look.
But I'm looking through, and so I'm going through, and each face I had an interpretation, and so I'd be really curious to talk to your dating coach and see if my interpretation is the same as his, because I always have a knee-jerk reaction to pictures. And so my thought is like, oh, that's creep. That guy's kind of creepy, or that guy looks like he has no self-confidence, or that guy looks like he's on something, or just usually it's negative, but occasionally I'll come across a picture. I'm like, he looks like a nice guy, and I could be totally wrong. But I'm wondering what there is behind the facial recognition, and whether or not my instinct is right, or if I'm just being judgmental.
Right.
Because I know I can be judgmental.
Yeah, I think we all can be, just by the pictures alone. And yeah.
And I'd love to get comments on this from people who are listening to this podcast. Tell me that, I'm totally off base here or what. But it was interesting looking through all those faces this morning, because I'm so not used to having that. So, well, let's get back.
So we'll go through those pictures together, and I'll show you.
Oh, yeah, because you probably know some of them.
Because I already know some of them, and I will know if they're in alignment with who and what you are. Because you want to be in alignment with who you are, and you want to attract someone who has those similar values and traits.
Yeah.
And not, this marrying opposites or getting together with opposites is crap. So
yeah,
that's what got me divorced in the first place.
Okay.
Was marrying an opposite of me, thinking that would balance me out if I just marry the exact opposite. Well, what I work with is, let's find some similarities and go off of that.
What my friend Steve Solberg, who I interviewed on this podcast, I shouldn't say friend, he's a comedian that I interviewed one time. I hope he's a friend now, but when we were talking before the podcast, he said his coach, life coach, business coach, or whatever, everyone's got coaches except me. I feel left out now. But he said his coach told him to look for someone complementary. So it doesn't have to be the same, but opposite doesn't imply opposite either. It's like someone whose likes are not the same, but their lifestyle relates to yours. Mm-hmm. Like he was saying, for instance, he's a comedian, right? And so he doesn't need someone that's funny, but he needs someone that thinks he's funny, so that that person appreciates him. And that rings a bell for me too, because I need someone who appreciates my personality and doesn't and likes the fact that I like to talk a lot, and likes the way my brain works. Whereas when I was in my marriage, my ex would have been thrilled if I would have just shut up. Mm-hmm. And so that's not really a good match right there.
Right.
So
yeah, you need those that will appreciate you for you. And it goes vice versa. Sometimes we need to, as women, need to accept, instead of trying to change someone to fit our mold, men do it too. Men and women both do it. We need to accept is this person right for me, and can I accept him for all he is right now without trying to change him?
Yeah, like I always say, that's like this is an as is. You take this person as is. Just assume they are not going to change at all, for the worse or for the better.
Ever.
I mean, they may go one way or the other, but assume that this is what you're getting. And I'm doing the same thing with myself. Like, I'll sometimes be going out with a guy and I'll think, oh, he doesn't think I'm pretty enough, or he doesn't think I'm thin enough, or whatever. And then I'm like, dude, what are you doing to yourself? You are who you are. And just love yourself and be yourself. And if a guy really digs that, then you've got a relationship.
Right.
If he doesn't, then you find a guy that really does dig
Right. If you like your Diet Coke, and for me, I love with the whipped cream, I just walk by the refrigerator, get the whipped cream out and spray it. That might really irritate someone. And if someone to that degree is that irritated by that, they're not for me.
Yeah. So it's all about like just finding someone that works with you, not finding someone you can mold yourself into the person that they want
you to
or
be.
you try to mold them into. No, that's not what it's about.
Right. So true.
So going back to this is the fun thing about podcasting, is you never know where it's going to go. But you had this breakup.
Yes.
And you don't have to go into a ton of detail, but
I'm an open book.
tell me how long it was and why it obviously was really devastating to you, because you went on. I don't think I've posted it on Facebook about it much when I did it. Of course, I wasn't quite the Facebook freak that I am now. But why was it so devastating? And I don't know. Did you learn anything from it?
Oh my goodness. I was just talking to my cousin today on the way to the office about, I have another epiphany about what I learned.
Awesome.
I'm trying to figure out what that was. But I guess that was about 4 or 5 hours ago.
Oh no.
My
Too
mind
long ago.
can't remember things from 4 or 5 hours ago. I dated this guy. I met him on Mutual. I dated him. We were together for about 8 weeks. And he and I thought our confidence matched, and I thought our clarity matched, but our clarity did not match. It's a really big method that I use with my clients. Is clarity and confidence have to match, or you're not with your perfect match.
Clarity about what?
Clarity about what it is that you want, and clarity about who you are as a person. So some people think that they know who they are. So this guy thought he knew who he was. Of course, Alex warned me he does not know who he is. I'm like,
So your dating coach said no.
2 hours telling me and convincing me he doesn't know who he is. But you could probably just stick with it, and he will figure out who he is.
Wait, so was this just from his face?
Yes.
Or okay.
It's the facial feature. Yeah, it's
All right.
actually
I didn't know if he
facial
met
features.
him or okay.
No.
Interesting.
And then we ended up. I ended up breaking out with him, and then my relationship coach told me to go back, and then told me all the great things about him at this point. And at this point, I was missing him, and he was missing me, because we were actually, he came back after about a week and started to call and text and left messages and emailed, and then I'm like, all right, I guess we're back together.
It's kind of hard to break up when one of you is still calling and texting.
He called. Yeah, we had a week when I was starting to feel really like I missed him. So it was hard only because, and I'm not one to eat sugar, but I went on a sugar binge that week that we ended. We ended things, and this is why I was so mad, and it could be different for everybody. I was mad because now I'm back in the single scene. And even though he and I weren't necessarily quote unquote exclusive, because I do not believe in being exclusive in a 2-month relationship, I don't know someone that well enough to be in that kind of a relationship, even though we were acting as if a couple. And
that sounds like you didn't have clarity about the relationship then.
He wanted to be exclusive. I didn't. So we weren't on the same page, and we were waiting for a time frame of, at least I wanted to wait a 90-day time frame before and having me be sure, do I want to stop the dating other people, which I did.
90 days from what? Like your first date? Or? Okay.
Yeah. For our first date, actually, I think we went from when we first started texting. We were going to go that.
Oh, okay.
So it was soon. It was getting soon.
You're like, what? 90 days from when I first saw your picture on Mutual.
Yeah, I think it would have been this week. I would have, it was around Thanksgiving when I would have given him, and I was going to give him that commitment at that time. And so what really bothered me is that I had to be back in the single scene. I wasn't, even though we weren't exclusive, I was still dating him and we were serious. Even though, if that makes any sense. We were serious. So
where does the 90-day thing come from?
So the 90-day came from like How Not to Marry a Jerk and Jerkette. So that program.
Okay.
And we knew we were wanting to wait, but we didn't have that time frame. And we actually both went to that class together. It was his idea to go to the class. I'm like, all right, more kudos for you. For me to like, wow. And then we kind of broke up about a week later from that class because to him, he wanted a commitment right away, and I couldn't give it to him. It wasn't time for me, and I told him, I said I was planning on giving you that commitment. I just needed more time. I'm just out of a divorce. I don't want to date and marry the first guy that comes along and we have a connection with post-divorce. So that was really important for me to really make sure, do I want to have a long-term relationship with this guy? And towards the end, I did. I had made that decision.
So you were fairly newly divorced at 8 months. And how long had he been divorced?
He was 18 months.
Okay, so he was a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. I think a year is a pretty good time. I remember when I was first divorced and my friend said, "You're not ready." And I'm like, of course I am. Everyone always thinks they are.
Yeah.
Of course I am. He was right.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready. And I jumped into it anyway. And I did so many dumb things that I talk about in some of my other podcast episodes. Because my friend Steve and I wrote a book called Dating After Divorce, an LDS Survival Guide. And one of the things we talked about is waiting, because you do dumb things. And, I would date 3 guys at once, and I would mess up my text. I'd text one guy thinking it was another guy.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Super embarrassing. Yeah. There's no take back to that text, and then I had to find some way to explain it in a way that didn't make me sound like a moron. But, okay, so the 90 days is supposed to somehow...
That's when the red flags will start to show up. Oh. So you need your time to really see, because if you're kissing, which we, yes, we were kissing.
So you weren't really following the 90-day thing.
Well, we had already started to do that before we went to this class.
Oh, okay.
So we were already doing the kissing and the holding hands and the cuddling and all that stuff. And then we ended up stopping it even before the class happened. Uh-huh. We ended up stopping because we're like, hey, slow down. And we were wanting to slow things down, and we were trying to protect ourselves. And so we kind of, both of us made the decision together to stop. I look back and I think he didn't really want to stop. He was going along with what I wanted to do. He didn't want to stop. He didn't want the kissing to stop, because the last night we were together, he even said, as he's looking in my eyes, oh, his eyes. And then, oh my gosh, his eyes. Oh, I mean, if I could just have his eyes. Oh,
this
wow.
This is one of those times when I wish that podcast had video.
I know his
because Julie's so funny right now.
The eyes were in, as he's looking up, we're looking up at each other, or I'm looking up at him, and he said, you're not, I said our 90, we talked about the 90 days and it's coming up, in about a month. And he goes, are you going to kiss me then? And I said, probably not, because I'm trying to slow things down.
Yeah. We
were pretty hot and heavy. Nothing where we needed to go talk to the bishop. But if I didn't slow things down, I would have had to.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest.
That's the problem. And when you start down that road, unless you're both really on the same page with, these are our boundaries that we are not going beyond, then it goes the wrong direction. And it's really hard to back off of that. And then you start, if you do, luckily I have not done anything like this. I don't want to get into any detail, but I know that feeling of, that was not what I'm comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And then you feel bad about the relationship and about yourself. So you're not going to have the Spirit with you during that relationship, and it's not going to be a good, wholesome relationship that's going to lead to marriage, unless it's one of those let's go run off and have the bishop marry us things, and I'm not doing that.
Right. And you're right. The Spirit did go away, and that really bothered me. And then the last 3 weeks, I think we hadn't kissed at all. And that's why I was starting to really fall for him, because we weren't kissing. Because when the kissing gets in the way of judgment.
Yes, it does.
And so
get your little chart out, and we'll talk about
my
this.
little chart?
Yeah, this thing that I almost put in my book, that maybe I will if I can get permission. It's the RAM chart. What's the
relationship attachment model, and we learned it from our how not to marry a jerk or jerkette class that Utah actually provides a free class.
That's
and
awesome.
They give us this magnet, these magnets to go on another bigger magnet, and you need to have, like, after 90 days, you have knowledge, trust, reliability, commitment, and touch, and that knowledge has to be like in the middle ground. That knowledge is in the middle, and then trust, reliability, commitment, and touch are all on a stepping stone downward, with touch being the last.
So in other words, you can't
Kiss.
You cannot jump over commit with touch. You can't jump over anything with touch. You first have to know the person, then trust them, be able to rely on them, and be committed to them.
Yeah.
Before.
In that order. So before we went to this class, I can honestly say with this relationship I had with this guy that the knowledge and the touch were probably, we talked a lot. So our knowledge about each other was that's all we did was talk and talk and talk. He was also the greatest talker.
Oh my gosh, isn't that awesome?
It was greatest, I thought at the time, a really good communicator. And so that's why it was really hard to break up. And it was kind of a mutual decision. It wasn't...
although sometimes you can talk and talk and talk and not communicate anything important.
Right, exactly. Okay. And that's probably what went wrong as well. So so we had the knowledge and the touch probably up in the middle, and the trust and the reliability and the commitment were low. And so that's what went wrong, and the relationship isn't going to survive. Now, I'm going to kind of say something even more personal with my relationship. This model helped me realize what happened with my relationship with my ex. And after 27 years of marriage, I felt there was very little knowledge, trust, reliability, commitment, and there was only touch.
Oh.
Even when I met him, it was still like all this was down. But I thought the touching, and as this class mentioned, when you start touching, meaning kissing, and you tend to have the oxytocin hormone, and the oxytocin is going to bond you with that person, and then you're going to think that you love that person by the kissing. So my ex-husband and I started kissing pretty early on. The next day, or maybe the first date, I don't know. It was the first or the second date we were together, and it never stopped.
Yeah,
and
so
it
clouds everything.
Everything.
Yeah, because once you're getting that oxytocin, you don't want to give it up.
Oh my goodness!
And so every time you see that person, your brain's like, "Oh, it's time to get some oxytocin."
Yeah.
And so you tend to ignore all the other knowledge, trust, reliability, commitment.
So none of that can ever catch up when you do the touch first. It's really hard. So it's knowing someone and trusting and reliability and commitment all need to be pretty solid before the the kissing gets in the way of things. And I'm not going to lie saying if I start dating someone, I'm not going to kiss them for 90 days. Personally, let's just put that on record. I'm not. But am I going to need to make out with them? No.
Right.
And every time we meet? No. That won't happen.
No, that's not. To me, that's like a teenager relationship. Yeah. It's like, come on. And especially when you're divorced and you've been sexually active because you were married, that's not a good idea. So it's better to just, yes, there can be some kissing, but how about just some hand holding?
Yeah.
I love hand holding.
Yeah, I do
it's
too.
It's very sweet. It communicates that your affection for each other without going down the hormone road. Right. And so we just realistically, we don't want to be going down that hormone road.
Right.
So, I can't remember. I was going to say something about this again. But, I think that I've decided that, this is what I was going to share. My friend and we went to Hawaii together, and we talked the whole time, just yakety yak. And she was telling me what she does. We were talking about this last night. How when a guy would go in to kiss her, she would put two fingers on his lips and say, "Now you know, if you kiss me, this is going to change the relationship. Mm-hmm. This is going to mean that we're exclusive." And so and I think that was awesome. I think it's so funny. I told someone, guy, and he's like, "Well, that breaks the mood." And I'm like, "So what? You don't think the mood's ever going to come back?" I would rather, let's be clear about this. What does this kiss mean to both of us? And because if you kiss and you think it means exclusivity and he doesn't, then maybe you don't want to be kissing him.
I do like that. And that's something that I will definitely in the future, and I know there'll be another chance to kiss somebody else. I'm just sure of it. Mm-hmm. To talk about what that, if we're going to kiss, what does that mean? I never did that with this guy, and I was his first relationship post-divorce. He was mine. And he was, again, he had the confidence that my ex didn't have, and that's what I liked about him. Mm-hmm. And of course, I was just attracted to him, and he was attracted to me, and we had that. But we could have, and we waited 2 weeks before we even kissed, and we talked about it in great detail. But it wasn't about what does the kiss mean.
Yeah, and if you can't have that discussion, I think you're definitely not ready to be kissing.
Right.
Because you shouldn't be kissing someone until you think, this is someone that I want to get to know much, much better, and they're very important to me, and I feel like there's a future here. And not, it would be fun to kiss.
Right.
No, because especially at this stage in our lives where we're post-divorce, and we're looking at a second marriage, hopefully, that we want serious, mature relationships. Not, that doesn't mean you can't have fun. But I'm not out there trying to find guys to kiss. That's not my goal,
Oh,
but
come on.
I mean, it would be lovely. Yeah, I have nothing against kissing.
But when the kissing started, and I'm like, okay, who else? For that week, we broke up actually right after that.
That's like the newly divorced syndrome thing. It's the newly breakup syndrome, I guess.
Yeah, who else? Who else was around so I can hurry and kiss? And then I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah. What am I even thinking? And then we got back together, and of course, that was awesome. It was, but yeah, we had our clarity levels about what our relationship, what he wanted was different than what I wanted, and in the end, it wasn't healthy for us to continue just because we weren't on the same page about important things.
Yeah,
we thought we were.
Well, and it's interesting because you broke up and got back together again, and then broke up. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that you should never go back to someone that you've broken up with because there was a reason that it happened. And I think about that a lot. And I don't know how many people, it would be great if people could comment on this, because I'm wondering how many people have actually broken up, gotten back together, and then stayed together.
You know why I went back is, because again, my relationship coach, I haven't been in a relationship with another man in 27 years. Yeah. So, I had 27 years with the same man. So I'm a little bit rusty with being in a relationship with anybody else besides my husband. Mm-hmm. And what I thought was like, my relationship coach had to kind of calm me down and say, that's normal. So I kind of broke up with them prematurely, thinking it was out of fear. Mm-hmm. And it was out of like, oh my gosh, no, this guy is like, I don't know what I was thinking. But Alex assured me, he goes, that's normal. That's normal. I'm like, oh, well, I do really miss him.
Yeah, it's really good to have somebody on the outside to look at you and go, you're acting like a freak. Why?
Yeah, and that's exactly what he said. It's like don't let him go back and get him. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can, because he won't stop texting me now, even though we officially broke up. And then we actually broke up in a mushy way. We got back together before I took him back. We were mushy again, saying goodbye once again. But yeah, he kept texting me. I'm like, yeah. You can't do this. We're gonna stay in this, or we're gonna I need to be done because you're killing me here.
Yes, no, I can't stand that in between place either.
So we were in between, and then we were together. So, and it was so yeah, it really was. It was going back to how hard it was afterwards. It was just like I was mad because I didn't want to be back in the single scene. He kept me safe. I felt safe with him. He did keep me. I felt safe with him, and I didn't, I didn't want to go and do it again. I finally realized I don't want to do it again. I wanted to stay with him. So towards the end, I was falling in love after 2 months, which I swore I would never do that again. But it was a possibility of love. I wouldn't say I was falling in love. I was a possibility that was going in that direction.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And
did you guys ever use the L word together?
nope.
Okay, good for you. I
Nope.
wish I would have been that smart. Because mine is, there's a lot of similarities. First of all, the time period is similar as far as how long I had been divorced. It was also short. Mine was even shorter than yours, though. But I met him at singles night at the temple. And so you think, stupidly, oh, of course this is going to be great, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the temple. And it was funny because I saw him there, and to be frank, there's not usually a whole lot at the singles night at the temple. No offense to guys I see there. It's just that there's usually not a lot of guys that show up, and there's usually not many that I'm interested in dating that show up. So to see this guy there, and he was very attractive, and I'm not used to very attractive guys liking me. Well, I'm getting used to it. Not to be conceited, but let's just say my self-confidence has become greater since my divorce. But there was this very attractive guy there, and we started talking, and we ended up having a lot in common. I mean, our birthdays were really close to each other. We had our same undergrad degree. We were about the same age. And I mentioned he was attractive. But anyway,
Yes, you did.
And he spent, most of the time talking to me, and then I left, and I remember, he didn't get my number or anything, but when we were outside, we both said we would be at a singles conference the following weekend. And so I drove home, and I texted my sister, and I said, oh, there's this cutie at the temple tonight, and he's newly divorced. Okay, red flag right there. He'd been divorced for about 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I didn't know back then. But because I was still fairly new. But I texted my sister, I said, this cutie, he's going to get snatched up so quickly. And she said, well, why don't you snatch him up? And I was like, oh, that's a foreign concept. But I saw him at the singles conference the following weekend, and I was his first slow dance since the divorce, and so we spent like the day hanging out at this conference, and I mean, what you kind of dream of how you want to meet someone, where it's just like this instant attraction. And we talked, and we connected on so many levels. And for me, the reason this ended up killing me was because we related on levels that I did not relate to my ex on. I mean,
Yes.
Intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. Did I mention he was attractive?
Yeah.
Anyway, we just related on so many levels, right? And so anyway, then he left town, and he was on this trip, and he would send me, I felt bad because he was out of town with a family member. I'm trying to keep this generic. And I didn't want him to not spend time with this family member, but he was messaging me the whole time, and he would send these beautiful emails. Oh my gosh. I don't know about other women, but a man that can write a beautiful email, well, first of all, good grammar, spelling.
It does. It makes a difference.
Huge difference, but he got me. I mean, his emails were almost poetic. And then messaging me, right? And so you can see it was kind of a long-distance relationship for like a week. And then he came back, and after all this messaging and emailing, we went out to dinner to a fancy restaurant, and he brought me back a souvenir from the vacation, and we had our first kiss, and it was this real sweep me off my feet kind of thing, right? And we had been talking at this point, and I had said to him, you're newly divorced, you need to go date other women. Oh, I don't want to date other women. That's how it started. But then he admitted that when he had been married, his wife was his first relationship. And so he married his first relationship, and he saw himself doing the same thing. And so, yeah, I could see that red flag. And I think I could see intellectually he needed to date other women. But of course it was tearing me up because I was so hooked on this guy, even though he didn't bring me dark chocolate. But, so, this went on for a while. We would see each other. I showed him some of my 80s movies because he was sadly lacking in the knowledge of that department.
No way.
I know. I showed him Say Anything.
That was a red flag right there.
Yeah, really. Someone that doesn't know his 80s movies. But
Where is he living in Russia or something?
I know. I don't know what the deal was. But and so then eventually what started creeping in was he wanted to see other women, but he used the L word with me, and I was feeling that too, so I used it back, which is so dumb. But then eventually, I remember one day, he always messaged me first thing in the morning. Guys, ladies like to be messaged, even if it's just a good morning and how was your day at the end of the day. We don't like to go for days on end not hearing from you. FYI. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm talking about anyone specifically right now. But anyway, eventually he said, he didn't message me, and I messaged him later, and it was a Sunday. I said, so what's going on? How's your day going? And he's like, I don't know. I'm starting to have these thoughts, whatever. And I'm like, oh, jeez. So we met at a park, and he basically told me that when he was with me, he was in love with me, and when he wasn't with me, he wasn't. I'm like, okay, where do your feelings go? I don't understand. So we broke up, and then I made the massive mistake of trying to be his friend. And then he would start messaging me and saying things like, well, how does this planet thing work? And I'm like, you really think I'm going to help you find other dates? I can't do this, And so he basically, long story short, is he was newly divorced. I was his rebound. And that's why I'm always telling people, don't get into a relationship. Find a date. Yes, go out date. But don't get serious with anyone. Mm-hmm. Make a lot of friends, and you're going to need those friends. Right? So, but it took a lot of 80s music to get over this guy. Oh my gosh. I can remember sitting there at my laptop, grading papers with like Hall & Oates playing in the background. She's Gone. You know that song?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I listened to that song so many times. And, is Baby Come Back?
Yeah.
That's from the 70s, right? I always go to I found every breakup song I could find and just immersed myself in it. And I did some of that sugar eating too, because I'm an emotional eater. I can always tell how I'm doing emotionally by what I'm eating. And so there was a lot of that. But I just remember that 80s music. Oh, there's some songs I can't listen to now. Like Baby Come Back, I can't. I think that's actually 70s, but I can't.
See, my guy wasn't in the 80s music, so I was, because he grew up in Texas. So he was all about, not that Texas people aren't getting in on the 80s scene, but
country music?
it was country music, and I'm not a country music fan.
Me neither.
And I was more, alternative 80s, and so yeah, you better believe I cranked up the 80s stuff. Full blast, speeding in my car, it was awesome.
That pretty much gets me through a lot. I mean, my divorce was the same way. I immersed myself. I remember when my ex was still living at the house and I'd already filed. And so here we are in the same house. He's in the basement. I'm in the master bedroom. And every time there would be some confrontation or something, I would go in the closet, close the door, plug in the headphones, and listen to 80s music and just bawl my eyes out. But
there's something about 80s music and the 80s movies can really get you through. Because that's what we
grew up on. Yeah. I mean, I graduated in 86. I'm 50 years old. I always wanted people to know that because I get 40-year-olds asking me out, and then they find out how old I am. They look at me like, what? So I'm tired of that. I want people just, either you can handle it or you can't.
Yeah.
But, I graduated in 86, and so that's my decade, but it's great music because I have 35-year-old friends that love that music, that they had older sibs or whatever. But so how did you get through it other than, you were blasting the music and sugar, I know that.
And sugar, blasting my music. You know what? I also had a photo shoot. My best friend took me to the park. I took 4 outfits, maybe 5. And actually I changed in the park behind a tree.
A big tree,
with men walking around with their dogs.
Slowly walking around, stopping because the dog had to go to the bathroom.
Well, thank goodness I had some Spanx, so it was like I was all. It actually, I don't know if that helped or not, but
that's awesome.
So it looked like I was naked, but I wasn't naked.
Oh yeah, I saw those pictures on Facebook, and didn't you buy a new car as well?
I bought a new car. Yeah, I bought a new car. So I bought the first time I broke up with him. I bought this beautiful. The next day, I bought this most beautiful antique piece that you see around the corner. And I'm not into buying antiques, but this was just calling my name, and I knew this would help me feel better. So I took a photo shoot in the park and then bought a new car. I had to buy a new car anyway, and it's a V6, so it drives really fast, and it's way cool.
Nice.
And
You gotta drive fast when the 80s music is
oh,
cranking.
absolutely. I'm not liking the gas.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so I went from a natural gas car to this V6, and it's night and day difference. But I'm loving it. I'm loving the power, and it reminds me of iPower. It also helped. This LDS base, right? So going to the temple was something really, really important for me, so I can get my next direction. What is it that I need to do? The reason why it was so hard. I knew it was a temporary relationship. But again, towards the end, I was like begging Heavenly Father, please let me stay in this. I knew it was going to end before it began. I knew, and it's a whole different story of why I knew that. But I knew it wasn't to last. And He came into my life to teach me lots of things. And one of them was he was a safe man to practice being newly married, newly divorced. And it was a safe man to practice the things that I wasn't able to speak up and be in my relationship with my ex-husband, and vice versa. I was that way for him as well. So we talked about that. We talked about that through the whole relationship, is that we really are for each other, however long it was going to last, to help each other feel safe and learn from each other. And so I just felt safe. It was also like, oh my gosh, I can love again. And it was so wonderful. And I'm not going to lie, having the attention he gave me was hello.
Well, when the stuff, I look at it as I got stuff from this guy that I did not get in my marriage.
Yes.
Or had not gotten in a long time. Like my counselor friend said, we have these empty buckets after divorce. Totally empty buckets that were not filled for a long, long time in the marriage. And then maybe have not been filled during the divorce, after the divorce. And so someone comes along and fills the bucket. And it's like, oh my gosh, this feels so good.
Yeah, I don't want to give back the bucket.
No,
I
so
don't want
nobody
to empty that empty bucket. I don't want to empty it out. I want to keep it.
Yeah, when the bucket is full, it feels really great. And when it's empty, it doesn't feel so good.
No.
So I think that analogy is really great in helping to get past it, because once it's over, you have to find another way to fill the bucket. And so, like you said, going to the temple is awesome. 80s music helps fill that bucket to
Getting
some
a
degree.
photo shoot.
Yes, because you need to feel better about
Oh my
yourself.
goodness. The photo shoot, and I just got my braces off too. Just a week
That's right,
prior.
you had those, yeah.
So yeah, the braces are gone. And again, I've lost 40 pounds since the divorce. I've gained it back since Thanksgiving.
Today or yesterday?
Yeah, I was slowly packing it on. So I didn't gain it all back.
That's a lifelong
I'm still wearing my pants. But yeah, it was just really nice to have that. To have the photo shoot and to remind myself. And I remember telling my best friend when she was sending them to me digitally, I'm like, okay, if my next relationship or husband sees these pictures, if I don't find the husband through these pictures, he's either gay or he's dead. So
you're saying they're good pictures.
They're good pictures. And I haven't even posted the good pictures online. I've only posted the oops. There's some, and it's not like, I'm not being seductive or anything. It's just me being me, and
they're
having
flattering,
fun,
and they catch your personality and all that.
Catch my personality in a fun way, and which is happy and go lucky and fun and flirty and all that good stuff.
They are good pictures. I saw them on Facebook.
Yeah, and you got the oops ones.
Yeah,
so those aren't even the good ones.
I think so. Filling the bucket up with all the positive things to help us feel good about ourselves again, and then also I think in a healthy way deconstructing the relationship and saying, what did I learn from this?
Yes.
And like you said, how did I grow from this? I learned a lot about myself in that relationship. I'm still learning a lot about myself. Every time I date a guy, like I've seen a guy recently, and I look back on our last date and I think, I'm really good company. And a guy if I were a guy, I would really like me. And so I'm like, not to be conceited, but I just feel like I'm fun to be with. And so even if this, doesn't go anywhere with this guy, another guy's going to find that out too. That brings that out in me. I mean, everyone is not, some guys, if I'm sitting there really quiet and bored with the guy, it's a bad match. So if a guy knows how to light me up, then it's a good match. and if I light him up the same way, you know. But I learned a lot about myself from that relationship, and not, first of all, no using the L word too early. And that's, L word is love and not lesbian, like my friend always teases me. And not to get committed too quickly. I kind of like the 90 days. I'm going to be cogitating over that for a while. But I like the idea of waiting and not kissing for a while. I like the idea of waiting and not getting exclusive for a while. Those two, to me, go together. And so you don't want to rush into that. Because if you rush into it and then you realize you don't want to be with this person, then you have to break up and it's a big deal. Whereas if you wait the 90 days or however long to kiss and commit, then you have that time in there to say, this is not going to work, but let's be friends. It's really hard to kiss someone and then be friends. Really hard. Much easier to wait and be sure. So
yeah, I agree.
So I think this has been great. I appreciate you sharing with me, and it's been fun and eating some junk food together. And I hope that people that are listening will get something out of this, especially if they've just gone through a first post-divorce breakup. And I'm hoping the second one won't be. I have not gotten into a relationship since then. I don't know if I was just burned that bad, or if I just haven't found someone that I want to be in a relationship with. But I'm hoping the second one won't be as bad. I don't think it will. I think I can logic myself through it a little bit better next time. So I want people to go on to AnnetteTalks.com. Please subscribe. I'm thinking about doing some kind of a contest to get some more subscribers. But I have several good podcast episodes on AnnetteTalks.com. I've got one on depression. I've got one interviewing a comedian. I've got several great round tables. Anyway, go check out my other podcasts. Comment. Tell me what you want to hear. Tell me what you don't want to hear. Or you can email me at Annette@AnnetteTalks.com. And I would love to hear from anyone about anything. Oh, also, you can find the podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Thank you for joining me, Julie.
You're welcome.
And we're going to go out and party this weekend and go dancing and just get out there and have a good time and not worry about boys.
No boys.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Julie, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Where I'm planted, I won't take things for granted. Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.